Today's game features Vassily Ivanchuk playing as white against Artur Yusupov as black. Move 1. White pawn to c4, activating the pieces. Black pawn to e5, establishing central control. Continuing, white advances on the flank, developing with tempo. Moving forward, black controls key squares with the pawn. We're in the English. Move 5. White fianchettos the bishop. Black advances the pawn, a solid opening choice. So, establishes a central pawn on d4. Black knight to d7. White now plays knight to c3. Black deploys the bishop to g7. White maneuvers the knight to f3, the idea is to develop quickly. Black maneuvers the knight to f6. White continues with opts for the short castle. Black kingside castle, securing the king. Move 15. White deploys the queen to c2, achieving harmonious development. Black deploys the rook to e8. Following opening theory. Moving forward, deploys the rook to d1. Black controls key squares with the pawn. It's white's turn. Pushes forward to b3. Following classical principles. Black deploys the queen to e7. White plants the bishop on a3. Interestingly, black pushes the pawn to e4. White repositions the knight to g5. Black now plays pawn to e3. We're at move 25. White advances the pawn, preparing to break through. Black plays knight to f8. White pushes the pawn to b4. Black places the bishop on f5. White activates the queen. Continuing, pushes to h6. White maneuvers the knight to f3. Black develops the knight to g4. White pushes the pawn to b5. A dubious move. Next, pawn moves to g5. Maintaining flexibility. We're at move 35. White takes the pawn with the pawn. Continuing, black pawn takes the pawn. White maneuvers the knight to e5. Black pawn strikes, capturing the pawn. Mobilizing for the attack. White plays knight captures pawn. Black queen to g5. Creating tactical opportunities. Now, bishop captures the pawn on d6. Black maneuvers the knight to g6. White knight to d5. Next, queen moves to h5. Move 45. White the pawn marches forward. Next, black knight takes pawn. Not the best move. Now, pawn captures, removing a key defender. Black queen takes pawn on h4. A mistake. White now plays maneuvers the knight to e7, check. Squeezing the opponent. Black plays the king becomes active. Showing excellent endgame understanding. Interestingly, white knight exchanges into the endgame. Black deploys the queen to h2, with check. White now brings the king forward. Black repositions the rook. On move 55, white queen to b7. The endgame idea is clear. Black moves the rook to g6, a dubious move. White boldly takes rook with the queen. Check. The king is in danger. Now, king walks to h7. A model endgame performance. White activates the queen in the endgame, checking the exposed king. A catastrophic mistake. Continuing, king wins the queen. Continuing, white knight jumps to e7, and check. A forcing move. Black responds with moves the king. Interestingly, white knight captures rook. Black pawn takes knight, simplifying. We're at move 65. White knight removes the bishop. Black knight jumps to f2, a fine move. Interestingly, white bishop captures pawn. Black queen eliminates the bishop. White knight to e6. Meanwhile, queen shifts to h2. White brings the rook to b1, converting the advantage. Black brings the knight to h3. So, rook to b7. Giving check. At this point, black king moves to g8. On move 75, white rook to b8. And check. Moving forward, queen takes rook. Meanwhile, white bishop takes the knight. That's a serious error. Black brings out the queen to g3. What a fantastic find. Vassily Ivanchuk resigns. Artur Yusupov wins the game.